Hey everyone, this is Jungkook. Before we start, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your country in the comments below. I want to see ARMY from all over the world. Korea, Indonesia, America, Brazil, India, Europe, everywhere. Because what I'm about to share is not just for me, it's for you. And I promise you, if you stay with me until the very end of this message, something inside you will shift forever. Don't skip, not even a single word. Because if you do, you will miss the thread that ties everything together. This story is real. It happened in my life, and it still echoes every time I think about what it means to love, to choose, to grow, and to step into a future that feels bigger than myself. I once asked Jimin, not as a bandmate, not as a brother, but as someone who has been a witness to every version of me since my teenage years, what do you think will happen if I get married one day? His answer shocked me so deeply that I can still feel the weight of it in my chest. But before I tell you that answer, before I show you what Jimin said, you need to understand the journey. Because if you don't understand the foundation, you won't understand why his words matter. You won't see why they carry the power they do. I want you to think of this message like a chain. Each part is a link. Miss one link and the whole chain breaks. That's why I'm asking you to walk with me step by step. You might feel tension, you might feel exposed, but if you stay, I believe you'll discover something about yourself, your own relationships, your own choices that will feel like it was meant for you all along. Let me begin with the first key. Identity. When you grow up in front of the world, when every move you make is watched, judged, and replayed a million times by strangers, you start to wonder who you really are when no one is looking. I became a trainee when I was still just a kid. I remember walking into those practice rooms nervous, insecure, but also burning with determination. I had hyungs like Jimin, taehyung, Namjoon guiding me, but I also carried this fear. What if I was never enough? That fear didn't go away when BTS debuted. It didn't vanish when we filled stadiums. If anything, success made the question louder. Who am I really? The golden maknae? The artist? The son? The man? Or just a boy who was still searching for his place in the world? Identity is the root. Without it, marriage, fame, love, and even friendship become unstable. And when I asked Jimin about marriage, his answer cut right through this root. He said something that made me realize I had been carrying a misunderstanding about myself for years. But we'll come back to that later. For now, I want you to ask yourself, do you know who you are when the lights are off? When the noise fades? Are you the same person privately that you present publicly? If you don't know, don't be ashamed. Most people don't. That's why we chase approval, likes, attention, relationships that distract instead of deepen. But here's the truth. Until you know your identity, marriage won't save you. Fame won't save you. Even love won't save you. When I was 19, I thought I had the answer. I thought identity was about achievement, about how hard I trained, how perfect I could sing, how flawlessly I could perform. But one night after practice, when everyone else had left, Jimin stayed behind. He saw me pushing myself until my voice cracked, until sweat blurred my vision, until frustration turned into quiet tears I didn't want anyone to see. He put a hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Cook, you don't have to prove who you are by breaking yourself." I didn't fully understand those words then. But years later, when the thought of marriage started creeping into my mind, the idea of choosing someone for life, those words came back. Because marriage, like identity, is not about proving. It's about living from a place where you already know who you are. That's the first key, identity. Now, let's move to the second, intimacy. I know some of you will immediately think romance when you hear that word, but intimacy is deeper. It's about truth, about being seen, about allowing another person to look at the parts of you that the world can't see. When I asked Jimin what will happen if I get married, his eyes didn't just see me as Jungkook, the idol. He saw me as Jungkook, the friend who once called him at 3 a.m. crying because I didn't know if I could keep carrying the weight of expectations. He saw me as Jungkook, the boy who once got angry and stormed out of practice, but later begged him for forgiveness. Intimacy is built on those unglamorous, unfiltered moments. And here's the paradox. The world celebrates our highlights, but intimacy is what truly saves us in the lowlights. Without intimacy, marriage becomes performance. With intimacy, marriage becomes transformation. Jimin told me once, the person you marry won't just live with your best moments, Kook. She'll live with your silence, your doubts, your insecurities. If you hide those, the marriage will crumble. But if you bring them into the light, it will become unbreakable. When he said that, I realized how rare intimacy really is. Even with millions of people watching me, so few actually know me. But Jimin knew. He always knew. Now let's move to the third key, timing. This is where the shock of Jimin's answer began. He told me, Kook, marriage is not just about love. It's about timing. Even the right person in the wrong season will feel like the wrong person. At first, I resisted. I thought love was supposed to conquer everything, right? Isn't that what the movies tell us? Isn't that what songs promise? But the more I listened, the more I saw he was right. Timing shapes love the way seasons shape harvest. When BTS was on world tours, when our schedules ran from dawn until midnight, when the world demanded every piece of me, how could I give myself to someone fully? How could I build a home when I wasn't even home myself? That's when I realized something painful but freeing. Not every delay is denial. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes it's God, the universe, fate, whatever you want to call it, pulling back the slingshot of your life so that when it's released, it flies with force. Marriage is about timing, and Jimin's answer made me see that clearly for the first time. But listen closely. Identity, intimacy, timing, these are not abstract concepts. They are the soil where the seed of marriage grows. Without them, the seed withers. With them, it flourishes. And here's the warning. If you rush into marriage without building these foundations, the very thing you thought would complete you will break you. I want to pause here and ask you directly, because this is not just my story, it's yours too. Do you believe you are ready for love that is bigger than convenience, bigger than appearances, bigger than fleeting passion? If you do, type ready in the comments. If you feel like you're still searching, type searching. And as you read each other's comments, remember, you are not walking alone. This is only the beginning of my story. I haven't told you Jimin's full answer yet. That will come. But you need to stay with me, because what he revealed next shook me in a way I could never forget. I promise by the end of this message, you'll see why I asked him, why his answer matters, and why it might matter for you too. Because marriage is not just about me, it's about every one of us standing at the edge of a choice that could define our lives forever. Stay with me. The chain is only beginning. I told you in the beginning, this story is not random. It didn't come to me by accident. And if you're still here, listening carefully, it means you were meant to hear this too. After I asked Jimin, what will happen if I get married one day? He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me quiet, almost as if he was searching for the right words that could carry the weight of both love and warning. And when he finally spoke, it was not what I expected. But before I tell you his words, we have to walk into the second stage of this message, sacrifice. So many people think marriage is about receiving love, care, comfort, attention. But Jimin reminded me that real marriage is about giving. And giving always costs something. It costs comfort. It costs self-centeredness. It costs the illusion that your life is only yours. He said to me, Kook, The day you marry someone, your freedom will change shape. It doesn't disappear, but it transforms. You will no longer make decisions just for you. Every choice will echo into her life, and one day into the lives of your children. Are you ready for that wait? I stayed silent, because I had never thought about it that way. I thought marriage would add joy, laughter, intimacy, and it does. But I hadn't thought about the sacrifice. Sacrifice is not glamorous, it's not what gets posted on Instagram, but it's what builds a foundation that lasts. And the more I sat with his words, the more I realized love that doesn't cost you something isn't love at all. Let me ask you, in your own life, what are you willing to sacrifice for love, comfort, pride, independence? Or are you holding on to those things so tightly that there's no room for someone else? Be honest, type it in the comments, because naming it is the first step to living it. The second stage Jimin led me into was legacy. This is where his answer truly shook me. He leaned closer, and with that soft but steady voice of his, he said, "Kook, marriage isn't just about you. It's about the generations after you. The way you treat your wife will echo into the way your children see love. The way you honor her will shape how your grandchildren believe in marriage. Your choice is not just for today, it's for forever." When he said that, I felt something inside me shift. I had been thinking about marriage as a moment, a ceremony, a promise, a ring, but Jimin reframed it as a ripple, one decision extending into eternity. That's when fear entered my chest, because suddenly I realized if I get this wrong, the cost won't just be mine, it will be carried by people I haven't even met yet. This is why so many people avoid deep commitments, because legacy is heavy. Legacy asks, what story will your life tell long after you're gone? Jimin didn't stop there. He looked at me and said, "You've spent your life singing for millions, inspiring strangers across the world. But marriage is where the stage disappears, where the spotlight turns off, and where the only person left to impress is the one sitting across the dinner table from you every night. That's legacy too. Not the noise, but the silence. Not the crowd, but the family." I want you to stop and think about that. Because maybe you've been chasing applause, validation, the next milestone, the next achievement. But who will sit with you in the quiet years? Who will carry your name when you're gone? Who will retell the story of how you loved? That's legacy. And the third stage of this message is fear. Because once Jimin laid out the cost and the legacy, fear tried to overwhelm me. I asked myself, am I strong enough for this? Am I ready? What if I fail? But here's the truth. Jimin helped me see fear doesn't mean you're weak. Fear means you're standing on the edge of something that matters. No one fears things that are meaningless. Fear shows up when destiny is close. He told me, "Kook, don't run from that fear. Let it refine you. Let it push you to prepare. Because if you ignore it, it will break you. But if you face it, it will shape you." I'm telling you this now because I believe someone listening to me is standing on the edge of something big. Maybe marriage, maybe a career decision, maybe a life-changing choice, and you feel fear. But what if that fear is not a wall to stop you, but a fire to prepare you? Think about it. Comment below. Do you feel fear right now about a big decision in your life? If yes, type fear. If you feel faith rising instead, type faith. And when you see each other's words, encourage each other, because this is not a journey you take alone. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear. Each of these stages is part of the chain. Each one builds toward the revelation I promised you. And remember, I haven't even told you Jimin's exact answer yet. I'm holding it because you need the foundation first. Otherwise, his words won't hit you the way they hit me. But let me give you a glimpse. His answer wasn't just advice. It was a warning, a promise, a mirror that forced me to see myself clearer than ever before. And if you stay with me, I'll tell you exactly what he said. Because what Jimin told me could change the way you see love, marriage, and your own future. Stay with me, don't skip. The chain isn't finished yet. When I left you at the end of part 2, I told you Jimin's answer wasn't just advice, it was a warning, a mirror, and a promise. This is where the story begins to cut even deeper. You see, most people believe that before joy comes, before marriage comes, before destiny comes, the path should be smooth. But Jimin looked me in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. Kook, before your breakthrough comes, there will be a breaking. You can't escape it. You shouldn't even try. Because the breaking is not punishment, it's preparation. At first, those words scared me. Breaking, what did that mean? Would I lose something? Would I have to let go of parts of myself I wasn't ready to release? I didn't want pain. I didn't want loss. I wanted marriage to feel like celebration, not tearing. But the more he spoke, the more I realized this is a universal law. Before light, there is darkness. Before growth, there is pruning. Before destiny, there is breaking. And I saw my own life in his words. Every moment that shaped me came through some kind of breaking. The nights I doubted myself as a trainee. The pressure of performing live for the first time, terrified I'd fail. The exhaustion of world tours that left me wondering if I could endure. Each breaking prepared me. Each one was fire that refined what was inside me. Marriage, Jimin said, would be no different. He leaned closer and whispered, "Kook, you can't carry old patterns into a new covenant. If you don't let them break, they will break your marriage instead." Those words stunned me because suddenly I realized I had been holding on to habits, the need to please everyone, the fear of disappointing army, the perfectionism that drove me to exhaustion. Could I bring those into marriage and expect it to survive? No. Those patterns had to break. And so Jimin's warning became clear. Before the vow comes the fire. Before the altar comes the ashes. This is where I want to ask you directly. Do you feel like you're in a breaking season right now? Maybe it's in your family, maybe it's in your health, maybe it's in your relationships. If that's you, type breaking in the comment. If you feel like you're coming out of it, type rising. And when you see others write their words, reply with encouragement, because no one is meant to walk through fire alone. But let me take you deeper. Jimin said something else that night, something that made me stop breathing for a second. Kook, you've already survived many breakings, but marriage will test a different part of you. It will test if you can die to pride. It will test if you can die to selfishness, because love doesn't survive on talent or beauty or even passion. Love survives on surrender. Think about that for a moment. Surrender. That word isn't popular in our world. We're taught to fight, to win, to conquer. But in marriage, the greatest victories come through surrender. Through yielding, through listening, through putting someone else first. When he said that, I remembered our fights as trainees, the moments when my stubbornness made me lash out, when my pride made me shut down. And I remembered how many times Jimin forgave me. If he hadn't, our bond might have broken long ago. But he chose surrender over ego. That's why we're still here. And so the fourth stage of this message is transformation. Transformation is not easy. It feels like tearing. It feels like being stripped of everything familiar. But Jimin reminded me, it's not punishment. It's construction. It's the fire that burns away what cannot last, so that what is eternal can remain. He told me a story about an older man he once knew, someone who had chased success his whole life but never transformed his heart. When he finally married, all the money, all the fame, all the accomplishments could not save the relationship. Why? because his pride remained untouched. He hadn't been willing to let the breaking transform him. That story haunted me because I saw how easily it could become mine. But Jimin didn't stop at warning. He also gave me hope. Kook, the breaking is not the end. It's the beginning. You think you're losing something, but you're actually being refined. Every scar becomes strength. Every wound becomes wisdom. And that's what will make you the kind of husband who doesn't just love for a moment, but for a lifetime. And so in that quiet night, I realized marriage isn't just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. Let me ask you again, what area of your life feels like it's under construction right now? Is it your trust, your patience, your self-worth? Drop it in the comments. And when you see others share, encourage them. Because transformation is never meant to be silent. It's meant to be walked together. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation. Each one is a stage in the chain. Each one leads closer to Jimin's full answer. But listen carefully, because the most shocking part is still ahead. Jimin's words that night would not only change how I thought about marriage, they would change how I thought about myself, about ARMY, about my purpose in life. And when I reveal them fully, you will see why I was shaken. You will see why I could never go back to the way I saw love before. Stay with me, don't skip. The chain is still being built. I told you before, Jimin's answer wasn't simple. It wasn't just a yes or no, or some casual advice. His answer was layered, like a series of keys unlocking one after the other. And by the time he reached the next part, I felt like I was standing at the edge of something much bigger than myself. He looked at me with those eyes that always seem to see further than I do, and he said, "Kook, don't ever confuse abundance with excess. If you think marriage is about having more attention, more comfort, more praise, you'll lose yourself. But if you understand true abundance, you'll find a love that can never be stolen." At first, I didn't understand. Abundance? What did that have to do with marriage? But as he spoke, I realized he was dismantling one of the biggest lies I had believed. For years, I thought abundance meant achieving more albums sold, more stages conquered, more fans cheering. But Jimin told me something different. Abundance isn't about what you collect outside. It's about what you cultivate inside. A marriage built on chasing more will collapse. But a marriage built on gratitude, faith, and presence will outlast every storm. And suddenly, I understood why so many people who seem to have it all still live empty. Because abundance is not possessions. It's alignment. It's when who you are inside matches what you're living outside. He asked me, "Kook, do you want a marriage that looks rich or a marriage that feels rich?" That question cut me because I knew the world would always watch me, always measure my worth by what they could see. But marriage wouldn't be for the world. It would be for the unseen moments, the quiet breakfast, the late night talks, the ordinary days. And here's where Jimin's words became even more urgent. If you don't cultivate inner abundance before marriage, you'll enter it with emptiness. And emptiness always demands. It demands attention, demands affirmation, demands proof. But if you enter with abundance, you won't drain your partner. You'll overflow into them. Think about that for yourself. Are you entering relationships with abundance or with emptiness? Are you overflowing with gratitude, love, and peace? Or are you secretly demanding someone else fill your voids? Be honest. If you feel like you're still chasing, type chasing in the comments. If you feel like you're ready to align, type ready. Because here's the truth. Abundance is not optional. It's the fuel of a love that lasts. Then came the next stage, positioning. Jimin leaned back and sighed. almost as if he was carrying the weight of his own memories. Then he said, "Kook, even if you have love, identity, sacrifice, and abundance, none of it matters if you're out of position. The right person, the right time, the right love, all of it can pass you by if you're standing in the wrong place inside yourself." I frowned, confused. "What do you mean wrong place inside myself?" And he explained, "Positioning isn't just about geography. It's not about being in Seoul or Los Angeles, on stage or off stage. Positioning is about posture. The posture of your heart, the posture of your decisions. If your heart is positioned in pride, you'll miss humility. If your mind is positioned in fear, you'll miss courage. If your soul is positioned in distraction, you'll miss destiny. Marriage demands right positioning." Those words hit me harder than I expected, because I realized how many times had I stood in the wrong position without knowing it. How many times had I chased outcomes without shifting my posture first? And Jimin gave me an example. "Kook, think about a seed. A seed only grows when it's positioned in soil. Put it on stone, and it dies. The same is true of your heart. If you try to plant marriage in the wrong soil, pride, selfishness, insecurity, it will wither. But if you plant it in humility, surrender, and gratitude, it will flourish." I couldn't argue with him. I could only sit there listening, feeling the weight of what he was saying. And here's the hidden danger he warned me about. The system around us, fame, pressure, expectations, it wants you distracted. It wants you misaligned. Because if you're out of position, you'll chase everything and hold nothing. But if you're positioned right, you won't need to chase. What's meant for you will find you. That was when I felt a chill. Because suddenly I realized this conversation wasn't just about marriage. It was about everything. About my music, about my friendships, about my future. And that's when Jimin looked me dead in the eye and said the words that nearly broke me. "Kook, marriage won't change who you are. It will only magnify it. If you enter with fear, fear will multiply. If you enter with pride, pride will multiply. If you enter with gratitude, gratitude will multiply." That's why you must align yourself now. Because when the moment comes, it won't make you someone new, it will reveal who you already are. Let me ask you right now, how are you positioned? Are you aligned with gratitude or bitterness, with fear or with faith, with distraction or with clarity? Drop one word in the comments: gratitude, fear, faith, distraction, clarity. And when you see someone else's word, reply to them. Speak life into them. Because positioning isn't meant to be walked alone. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning. Each one is a link, each one building toward the full answer Jimin gave me. And now, I want you to hear me clearly. The moment is coming when I will reveal exactly what Jimin said. The sentence that stopped my breath. The truth that made me question everything I thought I knew about love and marriage. But you must stay with me. Because if you miss even one link, the whole picture will blur. Don't skip, don't turn away. The chain is almost complete. The night of that conversation is still alive in my memory. I can see Jimin's face as clearly as if he was sitting across from me right now. His eyes didn't just look at me, they looked through me as if he was reading the pages of my life that I hadn't even written yet. And it was in that silence, in the pause between his words, that I felt something stir inside me. Not fear this time, not confusion, but a strange awareness that he was about to say something that could change me forever. He began softly, "Kook, you need to understand one thing. Abundance is not what you think it is." I tilted my head, waiting, unsure. I had spent years thinking abundance meant overflow, more concerts, more trophies, more recognition, more success. But Jimin shook his head. If you carry that belief into marriage, it will crush you. Because marriage is not about adding more things, it's about deepening what already exists. If you mistake abundance for excess, you will drown. That word drown, it made my heart skip. I didn't want to drown in love, in family, in responsibility. I wanted to breathe. I wanted to flourish. He leaned in and continued, true abundance, Kook, is not measured in how much you own, how much you earn, or even how much love people pour on you. Abundance is measured by alignment. It's when who you are on the inside is in harmony with what you live on the outside. That's why some of the richest people look empty, because their inside and outside don't match. It hit me hard, because I knew what that felt like. The moments on stage when I smiled for millions, but inside I was exhausted, sometimes even broken. The days when success looked dazzling, but my heart felt quiet and uncertain. And then came the part that shook me. If you enter marriage with emptiness, you will drain your partner without realizing it. You will demand she fill every void. But if you enter marriage with abundance, you will overflow into her. You will lift her instead of weigh her down. Those words pierced me, because suddenly I understood marriage wouldn't expose my strengths. It would expose my emptiness. I want to pause and ask you, what do you carry inside right now? Abundance or emptiness? Gratitude or hunger for more? If you're honest, type chasing if you feel like you're still running after what you don't have. Type ready if you feel like you're aligned and prepared to pour into someone else. Because here's the truth. Abundance is not something you stumble upon on your wedding day. It's something you cultivate daily in silence, long before the world ever sees the vow. Jimin then shifted. His tone grew heavier, more serious, and his voice dropped as if he wanted to make sure I didn't miss a word. But abundance alone isn't enough, Kook. Even if you cultivate it, you must also learn positioning, because the right abundance in the wrong position will still die. That sentence stopped me. What do you mean, wrong position? I asked. He explained. A seed can hold all the abundance of life inside it, but if it is placed on stone instead of soil, it cannot grow. A marriage is no different. You may be filled with love, with faith, with gratitude, but if your heart is positioned in fear, in pride, in distraction, it won't matter. It will wither before it can bloom. I didn't answer right away, because I could already see the places where I was misaligned. The times I let fear dictate my choices. The moments I let pride stop me from apologizing. The distractions that stole hours and left me too drained to notice what really mattered. Positioning, Jimin said, isn't about being in Seoul or Los Angeles, on stage or off stage. It's about the posture of your heart. Where is your heart positioned? In ego or in humility? In distraction or in clarity? In scarcity or in gratitude? That was when the weight of his words truly settled on me, because I realized it's possible to stand in the middle of opportunity and still miss it. Not because it wasn't there, but because I wasn't aligned to receive it. And here was his warning. Kook, the world around you will always try to misalign you. Fame will pull you toward pride. Pressure will push you toward fear. Expectations will lure you into distraction. And if you walk into marriage out of position, it won't matter how much you love her, you'll miss what was meant to be. I felt my chest tighten, because I knew he was right. How many times had I chased after outcomes while ignoring alignment? How many times had I thought being talented was enough, when in truth, positioning was the silent foundation? He didn't let me sit in silence for long. He gave me the truth plainly. Kook, marriage will not change who you are. It will magnify who you are. If you enter with fear, fear will multiply. If you enter with insecurity, insecurity will multiply. If you enter with gratitude and faith, those will multiply. That's why you must align now, not later, not when you find her. Now. Those words felt like a lightning strike, because suddenly I saw marriage not as an escape, not as a solution, but as a mirror, a magnifier, a sacred fire that reveals everything you bring into it. And so I sat there stunned, realizing that Jimin had just revealed the truth most people never hear. Marriage is not magic, it's magnification. Let me ask you, how are you positioned right now? Drop one word in the comments: gratitude, fear, faith, distraction, clarity. And when you see someone else's word, reply to them, encourage them, because alignment is not meant to be pursued alone. By now you see the chain forming: identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning. But listen to me closely. Jimin's most shocking words are still ahead. The revelation that made me sit in silence, unable to breathe. The sentence that made me see marriage not just as a choice, but as a destiny-shaping moment. I will tell you exactly what he said, but only when the chain is complete. Because if you miss even one link, you won't see the full picture. Stay with me, don't skip, the chain is tightening, the answer is near. By the time Jimin had spoken about abundance and positioning, I felt like my heart was being stripped bare. Every excuse I had ever hidden behind my youth, my busyness, my fame had been gently but firmly removed. And then he leaned back in his chair, looked me dead in the eye, and said words I'll never forget. "Kook, marriage will not save you. It will expose you." Those words hit me like a thunderclap. I had always thought of marriage as a kind of redemption, as if finding the right person would fix the cracks in me. But Jimin shattered that illusion in a single sentence. He told me, "The moment you step into marriage, the mask falls. Because you can't hide from the one who shares your pillow, your silence, your pain. Marriage won't fix your emptiness. It will magnify it. It won't erase your wounds. It will reveal them. If you're not ready to face yourself, you're not ready to face a wife." I froze, because deep down I knew he was right. The stage allows me to hide behind lights and music. Social media allows me to curate which parts of me the world sees. But in marriage, there is no stage, no edit, no filter. Only truth. And then Jimin gave me the next stage of the chain, reflection. He said, "Kook, a wife doesn't just become your partner. She becomes your mirror. She will reflect your patience, your pride, your love, your fears. If you speak with kindness, you'll see it reflected. If you lash out with anger, you'll see that too. Whatever you are, she will magnify back to you." That thought terrified me, because I knew the parts of me that I still struggled to master. My impatience, my insecurities, my perfectionism. Did I really want to see those parts reflected back at me every day? But Jimin didn't leave me in fear. He gave me hope, too. If you prepare now, if you face your weaknesses honestly, marriage will not destroy you. It will refine you. It will turn your rough edges into strength. But only if you stop pretending you don't have them. And then he asked me a question that pierced like an arrow. "Kook, are you ready to be seen fully? With no stage, no spotlight, no mask?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth is, I wasn't sure. And that's when Jimin moved to the next truth. Wait, marriage is heavy, Kook. It's not a chain that traps you, it's a crown that weighs on you. And the crown is only heavy because it carries responsibility. Responsibility to protect, responsibility to provide, responsibility to nurture, responsibility to grow. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The question is not whether you want love. I know you do. The question is whether you're willing to carry the weight of it. That silence after his question felt endless. I thought about my schedule, my commitments, my career, the millions of eyes that followed me every day. Was I strong enough to carry the weight of one woman's trust, one family's hope, one covenant's responsibility? And then Jimin gave me the next truth, the one that shocked me so deeply. I still replay it in my mind. "Kook, if you marry too soon, your fame will become your rival. Your fans will become her shadow, and your stage will become her wound. Don't step into marriage until you can choose her over the world without hesitation. Those words hit harder than any critique I had ever received, because in that moment, I saw what marriage would cost me. Not applause, not achievements, but the choice of priority. And he wasn't finished. He looked at me and said, the world will celebrate your wedding. They'll post, they'll cheer, they'll speculate. But when the stage is quiet and the fans go home, she'll be the one waiting at the door. And she will know if you've truly chosen her or if she's still second to the noise. I couldn't breathe because I realized that was the real test. Not the ceremony, not the photos, not the headlines. The test would be in the silence, in the ordinary, in the unseen. And then Jimin leaned forward, his voice lower than ever. So, Kook, ask yourself honestly, if you had to choose today the world or her, which would you choose? I didn't answer, because the truth scared me, and that's when he smiled sadly, almost as if he already knew the struggle in me. That's why I said marriage will not save you. It will expose you. It will show you what you love most. And if what you love most is the stage, then the stage is who you'll stay married to, not her. I sat in silence, my chest heavy, my mind racing. And now I want to ask you in your life, what is competing for your heart? Is it work, fame, comfort, fear? Or are you ready to love someone enough to choose them above all else? Drop one word in the comments. World, fear, stage, or love. And when you see someone else's answer, reply with encouragement. Because honesty is the first step toward transformation. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight. The chain is almost complete. Jimin's final words are still ahead. The ones that shook me to my core. The ones that made me see not just marriage, but life itself in a completely different light. Stay with me. Don't skip. The revelation is near. I told you before, Jimin's words weren't just advice, they were prophecy. They weren't meant only for that night, they were meant for my future. And the deeper he spoke, the more I realized I wasn't just having a conversation with a friend. I was being confronted with my destiny. He looked at me with a seriousness I rarely see from him. Then he said, Kook, the question you asked me about marriage is bigger than you think. Because marriage is not just a choice for yourself, it's a covenant that echoes into eternity. It will shape your joy, your children, and your legacy. And if you choose wrong, it won't just hurt you, it will haunt you. That word haunt froze me. I swallowed hard because I could feel the weight of his warning pressing on me. And then he gave me the next stage in the chain, regret. Kook, he said, I've seen people who married too soon, or for the wrong reasons, or in the wrong position. Do you know what followed them? Not peace, not joy, but regret. Regret that ate at them every day. Regret that aged them faster than time itself. I closed my eyes, trying to picture it, the kind of regret that doesn't let you rest, that whispers in your ear at night, reminding you of the choice you can't undo. Regret, Kook, Jimin continued, is heavier than any burden, fame, or failure will ever put on you. Because you can recover from failure, you can rise after defeat, but you cannot rewind marriage. You cannot undo covenant without leaving scars that ripple for generations. Those words shook me, because suddenly I realized this wasn't just about falling in love, this was about building or breaking something sacred. And then Jimin told me something even more piercing. He said, Kook, if you're not prepared, marriage will show you your worst self. And if you run from that truth, you'll hurt her, you'll hurt yourself, and you'll live with regret that no song, no stage, no applause can heal. That was when my throat tightened, because deep down I knew he was right. But Jimin didn't stop there. He moved to the next truth, promise. Marriage, kook, he said, is not about feelings. Feelings change. They rise and fall like waves. Marriage is about promise, a vow that outlasts moods, arguments, and seasons. And promise demands strength, not the kind of strength that lifts weights or fills stadiums, but the kind that holds steady when temptation comes, when fatigue comes, when misunderstanding comes. He paused, and his words grew sharper. The world will tempt you, Kook. Fame will tempt you. Opportunities will tempt you. But if you cannot hold your promise above temptation, then your marriage will be built on sand and it will collapse. I sat there trembling because I could see it all. I could see the headlines, the whispers, the speculation, the weight of a love that the world would never stop watching. Could I hold a promise in that storm? Jimin must have seen the fear in my eyes because he placed his hand gently on my shoulder. That's why I'm telling you this now, before you make the choice. Because the vow is not just words, it's destiny. And destiny doesn't bend easily. Then he gave me the next stage, Legacy Revisited. He said, Kook, you asked me what will happen if you marry. Here's the truth. Your marriage will either become your greatest testimony or your deepest regret. There is no middle ground. Because when you stand on that altar, you're not just choosing a wife. You're choosing what kind of man you will be remembered as. Do you want your children to say, my father was faithful, steady, strong? Or do you want them to whisper about promises broken and love lost? I felt tears sting my eyes because I could already see the weight of those words stretching into a future I hadn't lived yet. And then Jimmy's voice grew even softer, not less powerful, but almost reverent. Kook, marriage is not about the wedding day. That's just a celebration. Marriage is about every day after. The way you wake up, the way you choose her again, the way you protect the vow when no one is watching. That's the story you'll write. That's the legacy you'll leave. I didn't know what to say. My throat was dry. My heart was pounding. Because suddenly I understood marriage wasn't just about me being ready. It was about me being willing to surrender everything I thought I knew for something bigger, heavier, and holier. And that's when Jimin gave me the sentence that would haunt me for months. Kook, if you're not willing to die to yourself, don't get married. Because marriage isn't the end of loneliness, it's the end of selfishness. The silence after those words was unbearable. I sat there, staring at the ground, my hands trembling. And now I want to ask you, what does selfishness still hold over you? Is it your pride, your comfort, your fear of surrender? Drop one word in the comments. Pride, comfort, fear, or surrender. And when you see someone else's word, encourage them. Because all of us, no matter how strong, must face this truth. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight, regret, promise. The chain is almost complete. The final revelation Jimin gave me is still ahead. The one that made me sit in silence, unable to move. The one that made me realize marriage is not just about who I will choose, but about who I will become. Stay with me, don't skip. Because what I will share next is the answer you've been waiting for. I told you already, Jimin's words were not simple advice. They were prophecy. And by the time he reached the heart of his answer, I could feel something shift inside me, as if the ground itself was moving beneath my feet. He looked at me and said with a seriousness that made the air feel heavy, Kook, marriage will not only test your love, it will test your destiny. It will test the bond you have with Army. And if you are not prepared, it will cost you more than you think. I froze, because I had never thought about it that way. I thought marriage was between me and the woman I would choose. But Jimin shook his head. You carry something unique, Kook, he said. You don't just live for yourself. Millions look at you, not just as a singer, but as hope, as strength, as proof that dreams can come true. And marriage, for someone like you, will never be private. It will echo through the hearts of everyone who has ever believed in you. That is both the blessing and the burden. I felt my chest tighten, because I knew he was right. I knew that my choices were never just mine. Every haircut, every lyric, every performance, people read meaning into it. What would they do when I said the words, I do? And then Jimin gave me the next stage in the chain, exposure. Kook, he said, marriage will expose not only who you are to her, but who you are to the world. Some will celebrate you, some will turn against you, some will bless your choice, and some will curse it. You can't control their voices. You can only control your truth. If your truth is strong, you will stand. If it is weak, the noise will break you. That thought terrified me, because I knew how loud the world could be. I had lived through scandals, through rumors, through storms of opinion, but this would be different. This would be intimate. This would be permanent. Jimin leaned forward and said, Kook, don't think of marriage as hiding from army. Think of it as showing them what real love looks like. But to do that, you must be ready to be misunderstood. Because true love is always misunderstood by the world. My heart pounded, because I wasn't sure if I was ready for that kind of misunderstanding, the kind that would cut deep. Not because strangers said it, but because it would touch the person I loved most. And then Jimin's eyes softened, but his words grew sharper. Kook, the world will test her too. The woman you choose will not only marry you, she will marry the stage, the spotlight, the pressure, the judgment. And unless you are willing to shield her with everything you have, she will bleed from wounds she never asked for. That image nearly broke me, because suddenly I saw her, whoever she would be, standing in the shadows of cameras. Her name whispered, her life dissected, her love for me tested by strangers who would never know her. And that's when Jimin gave me the next truth, covering. Kook, your wife's greatest test will not be loving you. It will be surviving the world's gaze. And if you are not her covering, her protector, her shield, her safe place, then the world will crush her under its weight. I couldn't breathe, because I knew that was true. So Kook, he asked me, are you ready to lay down the stage to cover her? Are you ready to choose silence when the world demands you speak? Are you ready to fight battles she never sees, just to keep her safe? I had no answer, because part of me wanted to say yes, but another part whispered, what if I fail? Jimin must have felt my hesitation, because he leaned back inside, then said quietly, that's why I said marriage is not about being saved. It's about being exposed. It will reveal if you are strong enough to protect her or if you are too consumed protecting yourself. I sat there trembling, because I could already see the test that lay ahead, and it terrified me. Then Jimin gave me the next stage. Choice? Kook, when you stand at that altar one day, the choice you make will not end with yes. That choice will have to be repeated every day after. Every morning you wake up, you will be asked again, do you choose her or do you choose yourself? Do you choose her or do you choose the stage? Do you choose her or do you choose the world? And then his voice dropped into a whisper that pierced me like lightning. The truth is, Kook, you can't serve two masters. If you try to marry the stage and a woman at the same time, one of them will leave you. You must decide now which one you will stay faithful to. The room felt unbearably heavy. I couldn't look at him, because deep down, I knew that decision would be the hardest of my life. And now I want to ask you, in your own life, what competes for your loyalty? Is it love versus fear, faith versus doubt, family versus ambition? Be honest. Drop one word in the comments: love, fear, faith, or ambition. And when you see someone else's words, reply with encouragement. Because this battle isn't just mine, it's yours too. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight, regret, promise, exposure, covering, choice. The chain is almost complete. And the final words Jimin gave me, the words that cut deepest of all, are still waiting. The words that made me realize marriage is not just a decision about love, but about eternity. Stay with me. Don't skip. The revelation is coming. By this point, I felt stripped bare. Every layer of illusion I had carried about marriage, that it would save me, that it would be simple, that it would be a beautiful escape, was gone. Jimin had peeled them away one by one, leaving only the raw truth. But what he said next was heavier than everything before. It was the moment when the air grew so still I could hear my own heartbeat. He looked at me with a softness that carried gravity, and he said, "Kook, listen to me. Marriage will not just test your love, it will test your soul. It will either make you or break you, not because of her, but because of you." I didn't move. I didn't breathe, because something in his tone told me this was the revelation I had been waiting for. And then he gave me the next stage in the chain, eternity. "Kook," he continued, "marriage is not only about two people promising each other forever. It's about stepping into something eternal. It's about a covenant that is bigger than feelings, bigger than mistakes, bigger than seasons. If you take it lightly, it will crush you. But if you take it with reverence, it will elevate you." I swallowed hard because I could feel the weight of that word, eternal. It wasn't just about today or tomorrow. It was about every day until my last breath. "You see, Kook," Jimin said, "marriage is not an escape from loneliness. It is the end of selfishness. And selfishness is the one enemy that can destroy everything beautiful if you let it." Those words pierced me because I knew how many times I had chosen myself over others, even without realizing it. I thought about the countless nights I had locked myself away in the studio, choosing perfection over connection. I thought about the moments when fear made me shut down, when pride made me too stubborn to say sorry. If you enter marriage holding on to yourself more tightly than you hold on to her, you will lose her. That's the truth. And then his eyes grew sharper and his voice grew firm. "Kook, I know who you are. I've seen you rise, I've seen you fall, I've seen you break and rebuild. But this marriage will be the ultimate test, because it won't ask for your talent. It will ask for your surrender. And surrender is the hardest thing for a man like you." I lowered my head, unable to meet his gaze, because he was right. And then came the words that I still hear echoing. "Kook, if you cannot choose sacrifice daily, if you cannot lay down your pride, if you cannot put her above the world, then don't marry. Because a broken marriage will destroy not only you, but the generations that follow you. But if you do it right, if you choose with wisdom, it will become the greatest legacy of your life." I felt my chest tighten, as though a hand had gripped my heart. Because in that moment, I finally understood what he meant when he said marriage would expose me. And then Jimin leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Kook, the woman you marry will either be the one who helps you fulfill your destiny or the one who becomes the weight that breaks you. There is no middle. That's why this decision will be the most important of your life." The silence that followed was unbearable. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and shaky, because suddenly I realized this wasn't just about romance. This was about everything. About my purpose, my future, my legacy, even my faith. I finally whispered back, my voice almost trembling, "Hyung, what if I fail?" He smiled sadly, but there was no hesitation in his reply. "Then you will live with regret heavier than anything fame or failure ever gave you. But if you succeed, Kook, you will show the world what true love really means." I didn't know what to say. My heart was racing, my mind spinning. I had come to Jimin with a simple question. And now I was walking away with a prophecy that felt like it would shape the rest of my life. And now, I want to ask you, what does marriage mean to you? Is it comfort, companionship, responsibility, or destiny? Drop one word in the comments. And when you see someone else's word, reply to them. Because sometimes the truth we need is hidden in the reflections of others. Identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight, regret, promise, exposure, covering, choice, eternity. The chain is almost finished. The final words, the ones that cut me deepest of all, are still waiting. The words that made me realize why I had asked the question in the first place, and why the answer Jimin gave was something I could never forget. Stay with me, don't skip. The revelation is closer than ever. By the time Jimin had spoken about eternity, I was no longer the same person who had first asked the question. My chest was heavy, my mind spinning, and yet something in me was awake in a way it had never been before. But I still hadn't heard the thing I came for his answer. The one sentence that would either comfort me or crush me. And when it finally came, it was nothing like what I had expected. Jimin looked at me not with judgment, not with fear, but with a quiet kind of love that only comes from someone who has seen every version of you. And he said, "Kook, if you get married, everything you've hidden will come to light. And the only question is whether what is revealed will make her love you more or make her walk away." I sat in silence, stunned, because in that one sentence, he had said everything. Marriage wasn't about the wedding. It wasn't about the stage or the world or even the family I would build one day. It was about exposure, about truth, about the unfiltered me, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities I had kept locked away even from myself. And then Jimin pressed further. "Kook, you asked me what will happen if you get married. Here's my answer. Marriage will show you whether the man you are in private can survive in public. If your love is real, it will multiply. If it is fake, it will shatter." My throat tightened, because suddenly I saw it clearly. Marriage wasn't just a choice, it was a revelation, a magnifying glass, a test I couldn't rehearse for. "So what will happen if you marry Kook?" Jimin said, almost whispering now. "One of two things. Either you will step into the greatest joy of your life, or you will carry the heaviest regret you've ever known. There is no middle ground." I leaned back, my chest burning. I had wanted certainty. I had wanted him to tell me it would all be okay. But instead, he gave me a truth that forced me to confront myself. The outcome wasn't about her. It was about me. And then he gave me the final link before the chain's end. Responsibility. "Kook, you've carried responsibility before, to fans, to music, to your brothers, to the stage. But marriage will be a different kind of responsibility. It won't be about performance. It will be about presence. It won't be about applause. It will be about sacrifice. And if you are not ready to choose responsibility over convenience, then don't marry, because you will destroy something sacred." I buried my face in my hands, because everything he was saying felt like truth I couldn't ignore. But then, almost as if he didn't want to leave me drowning in fear, Jimin gave me hope. His tone softened and he said, "Kook, don't let this scare you. Let it prepare you. Because if you choose wisely, if you align your heart, if you guard your promise, then marriage will not break you. It will complete you. It will refine you into the man you were always meant to be." Tears filled my eyes, because for the first time, I could see marriage not as an escape, not as a risk, but as a holy invitation. An invitation that would demand everything, but give even more in return. And now, I want to ask you, what do you fear most about love? Is it losing yourself? Being betrayed? Not being enough? Drop one word in the comments. Self, betrayal, enough, or loss. And when you see others share, encourage them, because fear is only defeated when it is faced in community. Identity. intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight, regret, promise, exposure, covering, choice, eternity, responsibility. The chain is almost complete. And Jimin's final words, the words that shook me so deeply I couldn't speak, are still ahead. Stay with me. Don't turn away. The last revelation is coming. I had listened to Jimin tear down every illusion I carried about marriage. He had spoken about identity, intimacy, timing, sacrifice, legacy, fear, breaking, transformation, abundance, positioning, reflection, weight, regret, promise, exposure, covering, choice, eternity, responsibility. Each word was like a key. Each truth was like a hammer striking the walls I had built inside myself. And yet, even after all of that, I still hadn't heard the final answer. I sat there, trembling, almost afraid to hear it. But Jimin didn't hesitate. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine, and said, "Kook, what will happen if you get married? The truth is simple. Marriage will reveal the man you really are. Not the idol, not the golden maknae, not the sun or the superstar. Just Jungkook. And the question is, do you like the man you'll reveal?" My breath caught in my throat, because in that single sentence, he had cut to the very core. All the fame, all the applause, all the music, none of it mattered. Marriage would strip it all away until only one thing remained. Me, the unfiltered me. The man beneath the spotlight. Jimin didn't let me look away. He pressed on, "Kook, the day you marry, the woman standing across from you won't marry the image the world adores. She'll marry the man you are when no one is watching. She'll marry your patience, your silence, your flaws, your shadows. And if you don't face those parts now, they will face you then." Tears welled in my eyes because I knew he was right. And then came the words that broke me completely. "So, Kook, if you want to know what will happen when you get married, here it is. You will either discover the deepest love of your life, or you will confront the deepest regret of your life. The difference will not be her, it will be you." Silence filled the room, heavy, unbearable, holy. I wanted to argue, to say something, but I couldn't. Because everything in me knew this was the truth I had been running from. Marriage wasn't a fantasy. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was a mirror, a fire, a destiny. And what it revealed would depend entirely on the man I chose to become before that day arrived. Jimin's voice softened then, almost like he wanted to catch me as I fell under the weight of his words. "Kook, don't be afraid. Be ready. Prepare now. Build now. Because if you do, when the day comes, you won't just marry a woman. You'll marry your purpose. And the world will see through you what love was always meant to be." That was it. That was the answer. And I sat there, silent, tears streaming, because I realized my question had been answered in a way I never expected. Not with comfort, not with reassurance, but with truth that could either make me or break me. And now, I want to turn to you, because this story is not just mine, it's yours too. What will happen if you love deeply? What will happen if you commit, if you surrender, if you choose? Will it reveal the best in you or the worst? Will it write a legacy of love or regret? The choice is yours. Drop one word in the comments. Prepare if you're ready to build yourself for love, or afraid if you still feel the weight of hesitation. And if you see someone type afraid, encourage them, because none of us walk this journey alone. This was my story. My question, my answer, and Jimin's words remain with me still. Marriage will not save you, it will expose you. But if you prepare, it will also complete you. That is what will happen when I marry. That is what shocked me. And that is what I carry with me as I step into the future. So to you who are listening, prepare, rise, love with everything you are, because the chain is complete and the next chapter of your life is waiting. I thought Jimin's final words would be the end, that after he told me marriage would expose me, the conversation would close. But I was wrong, because in truth, that was not the ending. It was only the beginning of another layer. He looked at me again, but this time his eyes weren't sharp or heavy. They were gentle, almost like a brother who had carried his younger sibling through every storm. And he said, "Cook, now that you've heard the truth, the question isn't what will happen if you marry. The question is, what will you do now?" That question echoed louder than anything else he had said. Because for the first time, I realized it wasn't about prediction, it was about preparation.